So we're now up to the third track on Prince's 1999 album, and this song is Delirious. Delirious was the third single released off of 1999 in the United States. I guess it was the fourth single released off 1999 in the UK, because DMSR was actually an officially released track over there, which it wasn't in the United States. But Delirious was a pretty big hit. It was a top 10 hit for Prince. I remember hearing it on the radio fairly frequently when I was a kid. So this is going to be one of those songs that definitely helped put Prince on the map, same way 1999 and Little Red Corvette did. And to discuss the lyrics of Delirious with me today, I've got Jerry Bonner. Good morning.
Good morning, Jason. Thanks for having me once again.
Yeah, you're welcome. I think we've collaborated now a handful of times on some of these Prince Lyrics podcast episodes, and so people probably know what you're about and what you're up to. But if you want to just quickly give the listeners just a very brief introduction to who you are and maybe where they could find you, that'd be appreciated.
Yeah, my name's Jerry Bonner. I grew up in the Philadelphia area, born and raised, and I do a lot of different things, on the internet, writing and things of that nature. Mostly video game related type stuff, writing wise, but obviously a huge music and Prince fan since I was a lad. And if you want to check me out on Twitter, it's at jbonner71 on Twitter. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, so Delirious, what are your original thoughts of the song as far as like going back to when you heard it maybe the first time, or if you have any recollections of that? Did you hear it on the radio? Did you have 1999 album and you heard it there? What was your introduction to the song?
My introduction again was the radio, much like Little Red Corvette. And I read a few things that solidified this, and I wasn't 100% sure. I thought maybe my memory was a bit jumbled, but I remember hearing Little Red Corvette, then 1999, and then Delirious. And from what I understand is that 1999 was released first, but it didn't really do well. And then Little Red Corvette took off, and then they re-released 1999 as a single, and then that became big. And then Delirious. At least that's the way I recall hearing the order of the singles off of 1999. And my first take on Delirious was that it was just such a cool, fun song. That keyboard riff, that it just hooked you immediately. And and then of course, and I remember this distinctly, laughing out loud at the end of the song with the baby laughing, cooing sound. Just be like, where the hell did that come from?
Right.
You never heard it, didn't really hear too much. I was like, okay, and just kind of like literally laughing out loud, and maybe thinking it wasn't part of the song. Like I thought maybe at first it was like the DJ messing around, and the local station at the time that I listened to for a lot of pop songs did weird stuff like that. They would like play weird sound effects, or that was kind of the the wacky DJ motif of that time. So I thought maybe at first it was the DJ messing around, but no, it was obviously part of the song. So those were my original takeaways from it. It was just this kind of very different sounding, very cool song that had that like cool keyboard hook.
Yeah. Yeah, and your recollection is very similar to mine as far as like the order of the tracks, because probably guys like us, where we were listening to the radio and we were maybe plugged into maybe the coolest and most up to date radio stations. I was listening to pop radio, so they were just going to play whatever was popular by definition. Sure. So the original release of 1999, the single, wasn't going to catch our pop radio stations ear because it just wasn't a hit yet. So they weren't the tastemakers. They were just the ones playing songs that were already popular. So they weren't going to break a song on my local radio station. Let's just put it that way. So once Little Red Corvette became a hit and my radio station started playing it, then like you said, then they re-released 1999, and then so my radio station picked up on that because now Prince was a known commodity as an artist. And so any release after that was going to, do anything on pop stations and pop charts was going to get played. And Delirious was third in line. And I remember Also, like you really being attached and attracted to that keyboard riff, and it was a much slighter song in terms of like more fun, I guess. 1999 was kind of heavy with
Oh yeah, yeah,
with its lyrical content,
yeah.
although a lot of it, I have to admit, went a little bit over my head as an 8-year-old. But I still knew that there was more to it than just, partying.
Oh yeah,
Little
totally.
Red Corvette had its double entendres and metaphors, and it was more of a serious song as well. Nothing serious about Delirious. I mean, this song is just meant to be fun. It's meant to be kind of just, a really poppy, fun, lyrically slight, but still very clever written track. And it's got that keyboard riff, but it also has, and I didn't pick up on it at the time either, because the keyboard riff was just too much for me, and I just couldn't listen or hear anything else in the song. But it's got this rockabilly style, and I remember the Stray Cats were popular at the time with the Stray Cat strut and things like that, and so I didn't pick up that this was actually had a bit of a rockabilly style sound to it, because it was so buried. It didn't sound like your traditional Elvis or Stray Cats song where it was just very guitar based. This was more keyboard based, but it still used that style of singing to, and Prince has this vocal affectation that he uses in this song that he doesn't use in Little Red Corvette in 1999. That you pick up on those things later, and I didn't pick up on at the time.
No, me either. It's odd. I mean, again, I knew I was going to be on this, I did a little bit of research on the song itself, and apparently Prince saw the Stray Cats in London, and loved them, and then decided that he wanted to have maybe the rockabilly influence in a couple songs, obviously, that the Stray Cats kind of brought back at that time, and I think they cite Jack You Off being in the same vein, that kind of fun, playful thing going on, and I wouldn't have taken that away, any kind of rockabilly Elvis type influence listening to this, or this is kind of Prince's version of that. I would have not have taken that away until reading it, in my set, and just being like, oh, okay, well, that's interesting. So yeah, mm-hmm. I'm right there with you on that. That it's an interesting side note, I think, but not something as a 12, 13-year-old boy that I immediately picked up on.
No, just because he does his own things with it. He's got the Lynn drum going on.
Oh yeah.
Like I said, heavy synthesizers, and with the samples that he was using in the studio, with the baby laughing, and I mean, there's those types of things all throughout 1999. So many sound effects and background sounds in the album, and that just goes with having a bigger studio and bigger budgets and all the things that Prince had for recording this album. And with Delirious, it's like Jack You Off, Delirious, and Horny Toad, which is the B-side to this song.
All have that same kind of thing.
Yeah, they do. All three of them, if you played them back to back to back, and you played these for people and said, this is Prince, they would like, oh, well, he's just a one-trick pony, isn't he? Because
all he's doing is, this one thing. And you're like,
yeah, right.
He's just doing this for this moment, and then he'll get bored of it, and then he'll do something else.
Right, and then he'll never do this again.
Exactly.
He put out 3 songs with basically the same kind of feel to it and the same song structure, but don't get used to it because it goes away very quickly.
Exactly.
After about 81, 82.
Yep.
Okay, so mentioned the background of the song and a little bit about its significance. It's not really ever considered. I mean, as far as like on the list of songs from 1999, it's a really good song, but it's rarely cited as people's favorite, and I think it's just because it is kind of repetitive and there's not a lot of meat to the song. But this track is just filled with car metaphors and a lot of double entendres and just stuff that Prince was kind of already being known for at this time. And we'll get through the lyrics here in a minute, but yeah, what did you pick up on a lot of those? I'm assuming
not as a younger boy. I just thought it was this fun thing, and you're kind of singing along and not really grasping the words. But again, upon knowing that I was going to be doing this and looking at the lyrics again, I didn't realize how overtly sexual the song was. I mean, he's obviously talking about not being able to control himself, and around this woman in a way. And this is the thing that it came to me is that there's a song on Graffiti Bridge, Tick Tick Bang, not similar in any kind of musical style, but lyrically, yes, it's not. Here's this woman, and I'm not able to control myself sexually, and I'm going to have an orgasm before I want to.
Right.
And it's a bit of premature, if we'll call it that, and that's what taking it away again. It's what he's saying here. It's like you make me delirious, and I can't control myself when we're in bed, or however you want to phrase it. And obviously, Tick Tick Bang goes along those same lyrical narrative, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and Tick Tick Bang was originally written many, many years before Graffiti Bridge, so I think it even precedes the original version of Tick Tick Bang. I want to say precedes even the 1999 album.
That I did not know, and that would make more sense then now, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I could look it up quick, but I believe that he had written and recorded a version of Tick Tick Bang that was much more new wave. It was more like in the vein of Ronnie Talk to Russia. It had a very fast beat.
That would make
very
sense.
Dirty Mind Controversy era sound. And I want to say he wrote it or recorded it. I don't know when he wrote it, but I think the original version he recorded, I want to say like 81, maybe. And it's out there. If I went to princevault.com, I could find the answer. I'm just too lazy to do that right now. But
you can edit it in. You can edit it in.
Too lazy to look it up. But I know that Tick Tick Bang was recorded earlier, but then way earlier than it was actually released, or the original version of that. So he could have had the idea
for 10 years or so. That's interesting.
Yeah, right. I mean, he does that. I mean, Extra Level is a great example. What he has an Extra Level version from the 1999 era. Didn't put it out until Hit and Run Phase 2. So what the hell? But anyway, so the concept of behind somebody who's so excited and so sexually aroused by a very attractive woman, where he can't physically control himself, dates back to that. And so Delirious is more like, okay, well, I had that idea, I didn't finish it or didn't complete it, didn't release it, but I could use that same idea about just being so overwhelmed with lust that I just can't control myself again. But I'll do it on this song called Delirious that I'm writing for 1999.
Right.
All right, so let's get into the lyrics. Like I said, this is actually, I didn't say yet, but this is the shortest song on 1999. And it's just under 4 minutes. And you might think, oh, that's not that short, but for 1999, that's
short. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on in 1999.
Yeah, I mean, we've got 9-minute songs on 1999, and 5+ minutes is the norm. Let's just put it that way. Even for like the radio songs, like Little Red Corvette in 1999, those both go to 5 minutes and beyond in some cases. And so even Delirious, a song that falls under 4 minutes, apparently that was still not short enough, and they had to do a radio edit. So there's a radio edit version that's under 3 minutes. So they cut a whole minute off towards the end of the song with taking off some of the repeating of the chorus and some of the music.
Yeah, there's like an instrumental.
Yeah, and just make it like a 2 minute and 40-second song. And I'm like, did you really need to do that? I mean, Delirious is not that long of a song to begin with, but yeah, gotta rate it.
It's weird. I mean, you say that. I know what you, and not until I guess I got the album, and or Prince became more famous, or he became more of a rising star, that they started playing those extended versions. They would. I didn't hear the ending of 1999. The kind of creepy children. Mommy, why does everybody have a bomb? Until probably about a year later, I guess, or maybe not. But I know the first time I heard it, it was like, what the hell's going on here? What is this part of the again? Was this part of the song or so? I think that was part. I mean, once he became like a star, they started, playing his, at least in my area, the more indulgent versions of the songs, the full versions, or even dance mix versions, here and there you would hear. So that was at least around my area, in the Philadelphia area. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, for the most part, I think radio edits were the standard, and you were lucky if you got to hear like the full album versions on the radio. So it's pretty cool.
Yep.
All right, so he starts off the verse, I get delirious whenever you're near. Lose all self-control, baby, just can't steer. Wheels get locked in place, stupid look on my face. It comes to making a pass, pretty mama, I just can't win a race. So but literally almost every line in this is referring to some sort of car metaphor with baby just can't steer, wheels get locked in place, comes to making a pass, just can't win a race. And I like when it comes to making a pass, pretty mama, that's a pretty good line, because obviously that can have multiple meanings, just like any good double entendre or metaphor. You can take it more than one way. Making a pass in a race, as he says in the next line, or making a pass in terms of like trying to hit on her or trying to get her attention, because he's delirious. He's delirious and as I mentioned before, I feel like this is a song about lust. I don't get the impression that he's like dating anybody in this song. This is his girlfriend. This is just a girl or possibly a girl that he's just really attracted to and has this lustful eyes for. Is that what you kind of take away from that as well? And
yeah, no doubt. The thing to me, I guess the two that, and again, I looking at it with adult eyes, wheels get locked in place and stupid look on my face. To me, and again, like, I guess it gives more like an orgasmic kind of connotation, at least in my mind. You're kind of locked in, and then you make a stupid face, and it's all over.
Oh, it's talking about Prince's O face. Okay. All right.
Exactly, the O face. That's what I mean. I don't know. Wheels get locked in place, stupid look on my face. I mean, it could be, she just walks by or something, and then then he gets kind of transfixed by this woman as well, and then he's kind of drawn toward her as well. As you said, you can interpret it as any good lyricist or double entendre. You want to. It could have several meanings, interpreted several different ways. So
yeah, for sure. And losing self-control, baby just can't steer. So that's if you want to take that in a different way, you could think of it as also sexually driven, losing self-control, losing his ability to control the sexual encounter he's having with her. So premature ejaculation, I guess we're going to come to that later on. In verse 2, there's definitely a line where that becomes way more obvious that's what he's referring to. This one, you can maybe think of it.
We're leading up to that.
Leading up to it, thank you. That's a good way to put it. So the chorus then is very, very standard. There's not much to it. It's just a way for him to repeat the name of the song and get some of the synth lines in. 'Cause I get delirious. And then he just repeats that, delirious. Then you've got the synth line, do 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 do, and you've got that going on for a few times. He repeats delirious again, and then it goes right next into the next verse. So there's not a lot of extended musical breaks in the song. There isn't a lot going on in terms of changing up the music. It's pretty much the same throughout the song. It just keeps moving forward in the same manner, which is fine when the song is relatively short and when the music is this catchy, I guess.
No doubt.
So verse 2, I get delirious when you hold my hand. Body gets so weak I can hardly stand. My temperature's running hot. Baby, you got to stop. Because if you don't, I'm going to explode, and girl, I got a lot. All right, I'll let you take on this one.
Well, again, it's just an extension of what we were saying. Any physical touch that he has with her, I mean, even holding a hand, is bringing him to a certain point, shall we say. And he's saying that it's going to be a lot. I guess there's going to be, I can't control it on any level, and just slightest touch of your hand even will cause me to lose it, and it's going to be quite the eruption, shall we say?
Yeah, he's bragging a little bit.
He's bragging, exactly. Yes.
Although I don't know,
I got a lot. Yeah.
Right, and I'm not so sure that is an attribute that women really find that important, but whatever. But yeah, he's definitely in this song but it's essentially telling her that he's just horny for her, horny as hell for her, and he just can't control himself. And every line in the song is just meant to kind of reiterate that point. He's delirious when she holds his hand. His body gets so weak, so like his just a little bit of touch from this woman, and he just loses it. He just barely can, stand up, keep upright, and his temperature's running hot, so that obviously means that he's getting aroused. Is another term for physical arousal, getting hot.
Sure.
And then just her touch is enough to potentially make him explode, and that's I don't know. I mean, it's flattering, I'm sure, for a woman to know that it doesn't take that much, but also at the same time, like, oh, dude, come on.
That's a weird one because I've heard various stories where things of kind of like that have happened to friends and things of that nature, and
to friends, right? We'll just say it to friends.
To friends, yeah, no, never me, never to me. How dare you make such an insinuation? It's but yeah, you hear stories of things like that happening, and I think it really just. Obviously, the man is always embarrassed by those type of situations, and it really, I think, depends on the maturity level of the woman. Either she's flattered or it's a real drag.
Yeah.
Hopefully, it's somebody with a little bit of composure and beauty, style, and grace, as Prince used to say, and it just take it in stride. You would hope.
Or hopefully it never actually happened, and he's just saying like, "Hey, man, this could happen if you."
Right, I'm at that point.
Here.
Yeah.
So back off. I know myself well enough to know that I'm nearing the edge here, and that I will not be able to come back from. So maybe just let me cool off for a minute. All right. So then he goes into the chorus again, and the chorus once again is just a repeating of because I get delirious, and he repeats that a few times. And then, as I mentioned, the song just, like I said, just keeps propelling forward, and there really isn't there's no bridges per se, and there's no different instrumental breaks that you would call like guitar solos or synth solos. It just keeps moving forward. And so the next verse moves on. I get delirious whenever you're near. Girl, you gotta take control because I just can't steer. You're just too much to take. I can't stop, I ain't got no brakes. Girl, you gotta take me for a little ride up and down, in and out around your lake. Okay, so here we go again with the car metaphors. He talks about steering again. So before he said, lose all self-control, baby, just can't steer. And now he's basically saying, because I can't steer, you need to take control. He's telling the girl, take the wheel because I'm so delirious that I can't even drive anymore. You've got to drive. You've got to be the one to drive this car, aka my body, or your body in that case. So he implores her to take control because he just can't steer, and he doesn't have any brakes, as he mentions again. So there's another car metaphor. Just can't put a stop to it. There's no way to stop this for himself. So she needs to be the one to basically establish how far this goes, because he will not be able to say no. That's what I take away from this final verse, and kind of this song in general. Like, she needs to control the situation because he won't be able to stop.
Yeah, again, most definitely. And not to be too graphic or anything like that. I would take it as, that maybe she needs to be, on top in this situation. If you're talking about, I guess, positions and at least it seems, from my own life and my own personal experience, when that happens, it is a bit easier to control what's going on, at least in your own. You can how should we say? You can last a little bit longer. That's what we're saying. You get on top. You do the thing. Because if I steer, we're going to crash, or however you want to say it. And we're not going to have a good time. The one thing I get confused about here is in and out around your lake. I've never heard lake as a metaphor for, say, a woman, any kind of woman's body, or any particular body part. And that's that one's odd to me. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
It kind
I'm
of
assuming
harkens.
that's what he's going there, but I don't know.
Yeah, it kind of harkens back to on the For You album, the song "In Love." So he says, "I just want to play in your river," and what he's referring to is her vagina.
Sure.
So he's using another water metaphor here instead of a river. Now it's a lake.
It's a
So
lake.
if you don't know that, like if you
Right.
weren't familiar with the For You album or the song "In Love," this does feel like it's kind of
Harkening back to that.
yeah, it's kind of weird to think of it as that because it's not a common metaphor for that. It is not something that you hear a lot of people say. But for Prince, for whatever reason, he likes to use water metaphors, and he does it a lot in his career. But I don't hear him say lake too often. So I always heard this before I, like as a kid and just even for years after when I just didn't care enough to look up the lyrics or even could. I always thought he said leg, L-E-G. So I thought he was saying, you got to take me for a little ride up and down, in and out, and around your leg. And I thought that was just trying to have him say, like, between her legs.
Which would make, it'd be more obvious, but would make much more sense, yeah.
Yeah,
And
so I thought he was referring to just, the area between her legs. And so he said leg, in and out, around your leg. But that apparently is not the line. So that's kind of when I learned it was lake. Then when I started doing this podcast, and then I was, In Love was the second track that I did because it's the second track on For You, and the river metaphor really hit me at that point. I'm like, oh, okay, and it made more sense. This line made more sense knowing that he did that years prior and called it a river, and now he's calling it a lake. So apparently it's kind of in the same family of bodies of water, I guess.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. I feel you on that one for sure.
Yeah.
And yeah, he seemed to carry on a lot of the stuff with the water and, Purple Rain, obviously with Lake Minnetonka and, things that I've read. And I alluded to you and I think a message at some point. He had, I forget which book it was. I read a book where, to his own detriment, Prince it had this thing with bathing women and things of that nature.
Oh,
and a lot of times it was like the women would be like, all right, I don't want to play this game. Let's just get to what we're here for. Why do we have to go through like this whole almost ritual of you giving me a bath and things like that? And so yeah, I guess he had a kind of a sexual, I don't want to say fetish, but it seems maybe that respect of, with bathing and water and, so there was something to him that was, a little more, I guess, obviously sexual than to somebody else.
Certainly a lyrical fetish, if nothing else, but also visual. I mean, he's got that very famous scene in the When Doves Cry video where he's crawling out of a bathtub. So,
yeah, no doubt.
For a lot of people, that is one of the first times they've ever saw Prince was crawling out of a bathtub.
Crawling out of that bathtub, yeah. I remember my mother saying he's weird, and my aunt saying that he was sexy. So you had two different versions of it.
You get definitely two different. You get a lot of extremes with Prince.
He's weird, and he said all right, and they kind of argued about it, and I was like, I just like the song. I really don't care.
Yeah, Prince tends to elicit a lot of extreme emotions on either side of the fence. So then after the verse. He starts to it seems like he's going to go back into the chorus again after that verse and talking about in and out around your lake. And he says, because I'm delirious. And then he starts to do a little what maybe is a little more ad-libbing or just adding some different lines to.
Kind of riffing on the chorus. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm delirious. You get me delirious. And then he says, baby, lay me down. Delirious. The room spinning around. And a lot of these he's saying pretty fast, like he's kind of pushing the words together because he has to say them really quickly to make them fit in the style of the chorus and making sure that the lines fit within how the song is already structured. You can't drag it out because it just won't sound right. And he has some weird, or I wouldn't say weird, he has some different vocal affectations again, even in this part where he's like the room. Just spinning around. I'm not doing it justice, and I will definitely add it in here so people can hear it if you're not familiar with the song.
Well, I think it's the weirdness of his voice, or the kind of the is showing that he is becoming delirious, literally, and it's this being with this woman now has really pushed him over the edge, and his voice is he's losing control completely.
Yeah, yeah, and his vocals definitely mimic that and sound in that way where he is losing control because he adds a lot of loops and different style of singing here towards the end. Got me in repair, everybody got to, and then he just says everybody in Olo or Delirious, but saying it doesn't really make any impact. There's no impact to saying these lines at the end. It's all about how he delivers them.
How he delivers them, yeah.
Yeah, saying them just makes it sound ridiculous, but when he sings them, it really sounds cool, actually, but I like the end. And then there's a lot of, just synthesizer lines towards the end. And it just repeats the do, 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 do. And he's got a few more synthesizer things that he does. It's almost like he's riffing on the synth instead of playing a piano and just doing those little synthesizer riffs. And then the song ends after just repeating Delirious a few more times, and you get the baby cooing, and that's the song. That's Delirious.
That it is.
The song is a little bit delirious. Prince's vocals are a bit delirious because it's not a style that he uses.
Especially at the end, yeah. I mean, and I said I think it's kind of just driving home the point of how, what state he is now in because of this woman. It's he's finally at that point, and he's literally losing control. And I think again the riffing on the synths at the end, and I wonder if just to kind of go completely through to the metaphor is the baby cooing at the end kind of a cherry on top for the orgasm metaphor in a sense. Is that it's like finally it's like, okay, boom, that's but that's just again, as a kid, not so much taking that away from it, but
yeah, he's certainly good. I mean, you can definitely take that to mean okay.
That's where I'm finally, all right, he finally reached that plateau, shall we say, yes. And that's the sound we're getting to as a kid, I said, as I said, it was funny, it made me laugh, but because you didn't really hear anything like that, and but as an adult, it's like, okay, I think he's kind of putting an exclamation point on the metaphor here with that noise, with that sound.
Yep. Good, astute observation there, Mr. Bonner. All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I think then we probably have spoken about Delirious as much as we probably need to. It's a good song. It's, as terms of 1999, it's probably, as much as I like this song, I like a lot of songs on this album more, personally. It's still a 5 out of 5 if I was going to rate it song for me, because I never turn it off if I hear it. I enjoy listening to it. I look forward to it when it comes up on the track listing. But there's other songs on this album that just do it for me a little more than this song, I guess. So I really enjoy it, but it's never going to fall into my top 10 favorite Prince tracks. I don't know where it kind of fits in overall songs for you, but what's your take overall?
There are, as far as I'm concerned, there really are no down songs or bad songs on 1999. And yeah, Delirious, it's kind of... like a respite from a lot of the heavier stuff that he's it's just a fun kind of, danceable kind of song that, the first 3 tracks obviously are 1999, Little Red Corvette, and then Delirious. If you just take a word for each one of those songs, there's, in my mind, 1999 is serious. Little Red Corvette is cool, and Delirious is just fun.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously there's other songs that follow that delve into a lot more serious themes about relationships and sexuality, and even political stuff with Free. But as it goes, it definitely is up there as one of the more fun songs. And again, it like Jack You Off or Horny Toad even, and which are very similar. It's just kind of it's not a song that I would fast forward past or flip past ever. and
Yep.
it always will have, kind of a. In my mind, I guess it as a kid, it just kind of solidified this guy was, really worth paying attention to, and that he was doing a lot of different stuff, and I wanted to see a continuation of that or hear a continuation of that. And I would have gone to any lengths at that point to kind of get a continuation. All right, now I need the album to really see what the whole thing is about. So that's where Delirious, I think, comes in for me.
Yeah, and he was able to do things with a synthesizer, creating riffs and creating memorable hooks with a synthesizer at this time of his career, the way that rock bands, straight up rock bands, were doing with their guitars. And so
Sure.
This is just as memorable of a hook as any guitar line from the era as well. So it can go right up there with any rock band in terms of creating a memorable hook and a memorable riff that people can instantly recognize if presented. And I think that was a talent and something that he did extremely well in this era. And that was kind of important for him to be able to do that in terms of creating songs that people could really latch onto and instantly recognize and really be, like I had mentioned before in different songs, an earworm hook. That's what Delirious is.
No doubt, yeah.
You get stuck in your head, and you've got that synthesizer hook going on and on and on in your head if you wanted to, because it's that catchy and it's that it's that easy to just kind of embrace because of how good it is. And so Delirious for me is a great song. It's like I said, it's not my favorite off 1999, but it's a great song and it fits perfectly within the track listing. All right, so I think then we'll wrap it up. And okay. This has been the Press Rewind Prince Lyrics podcast. I wanted to thank Jerry Bonner again for joining me to talk about Delirious. Thanks, Jerry.
Thank you, Jason, for having me once again.
Yeah, and until next time, goodbye.